future. Please note that today's hearing is being live streamed on YouTube as part of a pilot project. Welcome. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers application for minor variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw, permission to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to create new lots. Hearing procedure. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require more in-depth review. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or applicant is present in interest and wishes to address the committee. If there are people in interest, the matter will be held until all non-contested applications have been cleared from the agenda. If your item is held, we strongly advise you to meet with the interested parties outside of the hearing room in an effort to resolve any outstanding issues. If no person is present in interest, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Making your submission. Each speaker, including the agent or applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and file a decision request card, which is available, I believe, at the end of these horseshoes should be, so that we have correct information for our records. If you have a written submission that you read from, please hand it in to Deputy Secretary Treasurer when you are done, who is seated on my right. First, the applicant or agent will make a presentation to the committee of the application as submitted. Then individuals, either in support or opposed to the application, will be allowed to speak. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We want to hear your views. However, covering the same points will not advance your cause. The committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their submission. When all speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut only the related issues that were raised. The matter will then be taken into the committee for a decision. This will mark the end of all discussion. Please remember to confine your comments or remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The decision. If you do not agree with the committee's decisions, you may file an appeal. Almost all appeals will be dealt with by a new tribunal called the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or TLAB. For more information on TLAB, please visit their website or the C of A website. Appeal instructions will be included at the bottom of every decision. In order to receive a copy of the committee's decision and to be informed of all appeal proceedings, you must fill out the decision request card referred to earlier. Please include your email address, as TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. Please leave your completed form with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer, a member of her staff, before leaving today. And once again, they are seated on my right. And decisions will be mailed within 3 business days. Madam Secretary Treasurer, are there any deferral requests for this time slot?
Yes, there is item number 20, 365 Balloyle Street.
Okay. Do we have the agent or applicant for item number 20? Okay. If you can please come up. Do we have any parties contesting this application? Okay. If you can come up as well. So all the parties, if they can come up to on my left-hand side, if you can be seated on my left-hand side. So we'll speak only to deferral at this moment.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and member of committee. My name is Hossein Iftekhari, and I'm designer and represent the owner of the property. And I requested for deferral for the reason that I want to consult community consultations with the neighbors and trying to clear some concerns about this project.
Okay. Okay, so is there a spokesperson for the parties contesting this application? Okay, if they can please come up, introduce themselves, their address, and tell us the opinion of others in terms of the deferral.
My name is Brad Sokol. I'm a resident and owner at 367 Balliol Street, which abuts the property on the east side. And I think I speak for all of the neighbors here that we agree with the deferral and the opportunity to consult.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, panel members, I'll need a motion. Discussion or a motion?
Is there any discussion, panel? Okay, through you, Madam Chair. I think given the fact that everyone is in agreement about the deferral, and I hope that the agent will take the time to meet with residents to come to some consensus on outstanding issues, I would move deferral of this application, including recirculation fees, for up to 3 months.
Okay, so a motion to defer has been moved by Ms. Oma, including recirculation fees and up to 3 months. Do we have a seconder? Okay, second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? Okay, so the application has been deferred.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck with the discussions. Okay, now we'll move forward with vetting the agenda. Okay, item number 1963 Highland Avenue. Do we have the agent or applicant here? Okay, yep. Do we have any parties contesting this application? Are you contesting item number 19?
There isn't any one item that I'm interested in.
Okay.
To be honest, just the overall.
Process or procedure? Okay, would you like to speak to a staff member then? Sorry, I'm just confused. Would you like to?
I didn't realize that we have to actually oppose to a specific variance as opposed to just the overall plan.
Are you in interest on this address, 63 Highland Avenue?
Oh, we're doing Highland and not Waverley?
Not.
We're just vetting the agenda right now.
Okay, so once again, for 63 Highland Avenue, so we have the agent or applicant. Do we have any parties contesting this specific application? Okay, so 20 has been deferred. 2189 Waverley Road, so agent or applicant. Okay, so there's the agent or applicant right behind the column, and so you're contesting this application then. Okay, so once again, we strongly advise you to step outside to discuss any outstanding issues and to try to resolve them before you come to the committee. So item number 22, 417 Dundas Street East. Okay, agent or applicant. Do we have any interested parties? Item number 23, 611 Winona Drive. Agent or applicant. Any interested parties? Item number 24, 203 Longsmount Drive. Agent or applicant. Any interested parties? Item number 25, 92 Langford Avenue. Agent or applicant. Okay, any interested parties? Item number 2691 Macpherson Avenue, agent or applicant. Okay, any interested parties? Item number 2720 Sackville.
Back there.
Okay, agent or applicant, any interested parties? Item number 2839 Stafford Street, agent or applicant, any interested parties? Item number 29, 129 Beaconsfield Avenue, agent or applicant, any interested parties? Okay, so that item will be held. Item number 29. Item number 30, 150 Strathearn Road, agent or applicant, any interested parties? Okay, so if there's any discussion in the room, once again, we strongly advise you to step outside since we're proceeding with the hearing. And so we'll begin with item number 19.
Yep.
Item number 1963 Highland Avenue. If the agent or applicant can please come up to the podium. And before we proceed, I would just like to highlight that the committee will not be entertaining any extensive revisions at the hearing today. In the instance that you have extensive revisions, we'll defer the applications to make sure that the variances are accurate and that others have been informed of the changes. Okay, so item number 1963 Highland Avenue. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have email correspondence from Urban Forestry and Heritage Preservation Services. We have staff reports from Community Planning, as well as Heritage once again, and the Toronto TRCA, the Toronto Region Conservation Authority. And then we have correspondence and support from 4 Old George Place. If you can please introduce yourself.
My name is Ida Evangelista. I'm here on behalf of the owners of 63 Highland Avenue. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members, staff.
Okay, panel members, would you like a presentation? We'll go directly into questions. Okay, questions?
You're aware of the heritage and planning reports?
We are, and I have been meeting with and discussing and have discussed in full with Planning, Heritage, RNFP, and TRCA.
So you have,
And I have no concerns, and we are in acceptance of all their conditions.
okay, thank you.
And building length and depth comes from measuring it as a single structure, yes?
That's correct, because of the path. However, planning has implemented a condition that the home size of 14.73 will remain.
Yep, that's, okay. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no other questions, discussion, or a motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think that what's being proposed is not unreasonable. It's underground, so with the conditions that planning is asking us to attach, I think that addresses anything on the outside going to that depth. So if my colleagues don't have any comments, I'd be prepared to move a motion. Okay, so through you, Madam Chair, I would move approval of the application, including the conditions outlined in the September 12th Heritage Report, as well as the conditions outlined in the September 13th Planning Staff Report.
Okay, so a motion to approve, including the outlined condition, has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder? Second, Mr. Carlson. All in favor? Okay, so the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 20 has been deferred. Item 21 is being held. Item 22, 417 Dundas Street East. If we can have the agent applicant please come up. So for Dundas Street, we have a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a C of A decision affecting the subject property. We have 2 photographs of the subject property and neighboring building. We have a cover letter from the applicant. We have lists and maps showing the location of basement apartments within the neighborhood. We have a parking permit map. We have email correspondence from community planning, as well as correspondence and support from various addresses on Dundas Street, including the directly adjacent neighbor of 415 Dundas Street. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Madam and committee members. My name is Anthony Wallace. I am the owner of 417 Dundas Street East. I'm here today to seek approval from the committee for a secondary basement suite and a commercial space on the first floor at grade. See diagram 1. More importantly, this proposal is the catalyst that will provide the opportunity for a suitable living space for my mother, who see diagram 2. Their proposal is in line with section 4.5 of the official plan, allowing residents to live and work in the same area. In my opinion, I would describe the general area where 417 Dundas Street East is situated as compact, active, tightly knit, and a dense area of urban development with mixed and commercial residential uses. My proposal is the embodiment of the city's long-term goals and echoes the vision for the neighbourhood as described in the official plan. Section 4.5, Policy 2, provides the development criteria in mixed-use areas and are summarised as follows. To create a balance of high-quality commercial, reduce automobile dependency and meet the needs of the local community. My proposal introduces uses that are beneficial to the area, utilising local public transit, creating new jobs for Toronto's growing population. The proposal intends to animate the street with commercial uses and, in turn, create a pleasant pedestrian environment. Public transit is available immediately in front of the subject site, in addition to transit routes along Parliament and Sherborne, respectively. The general intent of a zoning bylaw is to ensure compatible built form within the area and ensure no unacceptable adverse impacts on the streetscape or adjacent properties. In my opinion, along with planning department, see diagram 3, the proposal does maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws and does not introduce any inappropriate building form or uses that are unfamiliar or undesirable to the immediate neighbourhood and area context, as a salon exists next door at 415 Dundas Street East. Basement secondary suites are a common feature in close proximity to the subject property. See diagrams 4 and 4A. With reference to the relevant zoning bylaws concerning 417 Dundas Street East, I was already granted approval for 232 metres squared GFA at the Committee of Adjustments hearing on February 15, 2017. which is now already built. As such, changing the basement into a living space to accommodate my mother has increased the GFA to 270.44 meters squared. No further building is proposed, thus adding no further physical impacts on neighbouring properties such as height issues, shadows, setbacks, overlooks, and is generally consistent with current densities of neighbouring properties. With reference to Variance 5 in the public notice, this variance, which says you cannot have a secondary suite within 5 years of a new build, was triggered due to the recent renovations at the subject property. 417 Dundas Street East was built over 100 years ago. With reference to the required minimum number of secondary suite parking spaces, which in this case is 1, the City of Toronto's Parking Permit Department confirmed that 100 parking spaces in Area 7A are available to 417 Dundas Street East, up to 300 meters away from the subject property. See diagram 5. As mentioned before, the secondary suite will be occupied by my mother, who is 80 years old, and as such will be using public transit to be mobile. With reference to the variance whereby the secondary suite is below the commercial space, the intent of the official plan is to animate the street with commercial at grade. The proposal intends to bring this in line with the official plan and as such should be considered minor in nature. It is my opinion that the above variances should be considered minor, as the proposal individually and collectively meets the 4 test of minor variances and represents good planning. I believe the proposal will result in a consistent street frontage and the same building envelope, reinforcing existing physical and character and streetscape. I ask the committee to consider the 4 letters of strong support I have received from neighbouring properties, along with the letter of support from Planning Department stating that they had no objections. I'd also like to add that I've had no opposition from neighbours. I'd like to contribute to the recent change, development and prosperity of the local area via the development of my own property. I'd like to thank the committee for allowing me to present this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any questions?
Only question is, with respect to variance 3, why are you making these changes so quickly after the last set of variances?
Okay, that's a good question. What's happened the last year, year and a half, I'm a hairstylist, so I've been doing a lot of work, a lot of video work, a lot of shows, and my client base has built a lot, grown a lot. So to be honest with you, I've grown in confidence over the last 2 years, and I think I'm ready to start my own business. And at age 52, I think if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? So I'm at that stage to start my own business now.
Okay. I have a question in terms of the commercial. So there's going to be no build form changes except for the
Nothing.
collection.
Everything's exactly the same.
In terms of the commercial uses, what is your plan to rent out that space to?
It's going to be a hair salon for myself.
Okay. Okay. I'm just concerned for any future tenants in the basement beyond you.
Yeah, no, who's going to be in the basement is my mother, and with most parents, when they get to a certain age, they want to have a sense of independence. So I want her to have that space to herself, but I can supervise her still, but that she's got her own space, you know.
Okay. Panel members, any other questions? If there are no other questions, discussion, we're in committee, or a motion?
I'm comfortable as prepared to make a motion. I would just point out, looking at the previous set of variances, this actually is bringing it to closer to compliant, more into compliance than the previous set. This is a CR zone.
I echo your comments in terms of introducing mixed uses on a property that's fronting onto Dundas Street. Okay, any other?
No, I echo Mr. Carlson's comments.
Okay. Agree. We'll need a motion. Anyone?
All right. I move approval of the application as I believe it represents an appropriate development for the site and is minor in nature.
So motion to approve has been moved by Mr. Carlson. Do we have a seconder? Second by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Item number 23611 Winona Drive. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. And if we can please, if we can have the agent applicant please come up and introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Andrew Batey-Sharva. I'm the agent on the project. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee. Could I present letters, neighboring letters for the project?
Yep. Are there any directly adjacent neighbors that have signed support? I can just go through them then. Okay, panel members, would you like a presentation? We'll go directly into questions since there's only 2 variances. Okay, so. Sorry, if we, you introduce.
What's your existing front yard landscaping? Does the variance represent an existing condition or?
The parking, the driveway is existing, and we have an existing walkway as well there. With the stairs are in the same location.
So the 58.4% would be roughly the same as what it is currently, or significantly different?
I think
So it is an existing condition then?
the entry stairs and the driveway are existing.
So
Okay.
the front yard landscaping is basically going to be
Yeah.
the same amount?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not making the situation less than it is now?
No, and literally, we're just trying to get to the front door and in the carport.
So we have four letters of support, including 609, so the one that adjacent property. Okay. Are there any other questions?
No.
What is the existing FSI? Because I couldn't read the fine print.
So the existing one is, excuse me one moment. Building height. One is, it's 127 square meters. So we are 1.1 for our FAR because we're counting the basement in the equation because of the nature of where the first floor is. So if we didn't count the basement, we'd be at 0.78.
Any other questions? If there are no other questions, discussion, or motion?
I think in terms of actual variances, this is extremely minor in nature.
Agree.
Agreed.
Okay. Then I'll need a motion.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, to move to approve the application, as I believe it is indeed minor and appropriate.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Hayes. Do we have a seconder? Second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Very much.
Item number 24-203, Longsmount Drive. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have a detailed site plan and front yard landscaping plan from the agent. We have the cover letter from, including revised zoning notice from, I believe, also the agent. And then we have email correspondence from Toronto Building, Urban Forestry, and then a staff report from TRCA. We also have 6 form letters in support from various addresses on Longsmount Drive. Okay, and including the one directly adjacent at 201. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself and your address.
My name is Michael Goldberg. I'm the planner for the applicants. I will add just a few things to your list there. There are 6 letters of support from, and that includes both neighbors on either side, including other neighbors in the area. With the extensive comments you have, one comment you didn't list because they probably didn't comment was community planning. We, through the architect and builder, had throughout this process been communicating with community planning, and Ms. Catherine Young had responded by way of email to the applicant that they won't be providing any further comments. They did provide comments, and those accommodations were made. One other thing, just preliminary matter I will say, members of committee, is that there is the August 29th zoning notice that came out the day after the public hearing notice was mailed. And the positive impact that the notice had on the list of variances is that all variances relating to the old bylaw have now been eliminated. As committee members likely know, there was a decision of the Ontario Municipal Board relating to bylaw 569-2013, bringing many, although not all, the provisions of 569-13 into force and effect, thereby, so all of these ones that were listed have been brought into force and effect, thereby eliminating that portion of 438-86 that overlapped.
Would you like to amend your application then, removing
Yes,
all
please.
the variances from bylaw 43886?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll do that.
The only other comments I will make is bylaw 1 relating to the FSI. As members of committee maybe know, and I can show you a visual of this, this is subject to ravine control. The better part of the rear yard is subject to ravine control, even though a good part of that portion is actually flat land. There's a retaining wall in the backyard that retains the flat portion of the backyard where the swimming pool is going to be removed. So what I will say to the committee is, if the application was calculated over the entire property, like the neighborhood has, because this is an older neighborhood, and it would have been subject to the older bylaw, the FSI would be 0.488. But because bylaw 569-2013 requires that all lands below the the ravine control limit be eliminated from lot area for the purpose of calculation FSI, the number is higher. So I'm just going to say it's a bit artificial, and the 0.488 is really a neighborhood context number and how it fits into the neighborhood. You'll see that from a site planning point of view that the rear line of the building is not extending really beyond the rear line. The front yard setback, which is variance, which is the number 2 that's before you, numerically it's a small variance to begin with, but it relates largely to the southerly bump out. But in any event, because of the small nature, I think visually and qualitatively from the street, that building is lining up generally with the buildings on either side. So it will be very difficult to perceive the difference. And in any event, shifting the building easterly would shift it closer to the valley, and then it brings in ravine control implications. And I don't think that there's a great benefit to do that in any event, because we're dealing with flat land generally back there. The variance number 3 just relates to one bump out on the south side of the property, which is just the entry point. The remainder of the building is well in excess of that. Then variances 4, 5, 6, and 7 all relate to a circular driveway which exists today. So that driveway actually isn't being altered. It exists today. It is across the street from 2 very wide driveways in the form of 3-car garage or 3-car width driveways. So these are very much recognizing an existing condition. And then number 8 and 9 relates to the ravine control matter that I discussed. So you've got comments from the ravine control people. You also have comments from TRCA. Both agencies specifically looked at this setback normally required in.
Sorry, you're at 5 minutes, so if you can just quickly.
And I'm finished.
Okay.
I'm finished. I think I've covered the items I want to cover. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions?
Just one about the driveway.
Yeah.
I know it's existing. Are you going to be resurfacing it?
Yes.
Would you be amenable to a condition for permeable pavers?
No problem. I think they were going to do that anyways.
Okay, so
permeable pavers. Okay, panel members, any other questions? If not, discussion or a motion?
Having reviewed all the material and then the submissions, Mr. Goldberg, and noting that TRCA has no objection to the application with respect to those variances. I had some issues with respect to the driveway width, but the explanation provided with respect to it being existing provision, that's fine, and I believe the other variances are reasonable, and if there's no further comments, I'd be prepared to move a motion.
I would just ask Why are you maintaining the driveway? Hey, you know what, in retrospect,
We're ready in committee.
yes, we are. My comment to committee, the driveway I have issues with, but it is existing.
And there's a number of other properties that also have
Yeah.
similar driveways.
Again, it's existing.
Yeah.
I think there are others in the area, although not, exactly next door or across, but I don't think it's an unusual thing to see there. And if a condition's put on for permeable pavers, then I think that the application in its entirety is actually a good fit within the neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay, if there are no other comments, I'll need a motion.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve the application as amended, subject to the condition that permeable pavers be installed on the driveway, as I believe that the application is indeed appropriate and meets the character of the area.
Okay, so a motion to approve the amended application, including the permeable pavers condition, has been moved by Ms. Hayes. Do we have a seconder? Second by Ms. Omen. All in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 25. Item number 25, 92 Langford Avenue. Okay. So the committee has in front of us a plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry, and then we have correspondence in support from 70 Langford Avenue, as well as 7 form letters in support from various addresses on Langford Avenue, including the 2 directly adjacent properties, and as well as Woody Crest Avenue. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself and your address.
Good afternoon, Madam and Committee. My name is Will Kwan. I am the owner of 92. This is my wife, Cayman Kwan, of 92 Langford. Today we're here seeking approval for an extension to our home and a 2-car garage for our growing family, and we've been longtime residents of the neighborhood, so this is our forever home. So
Okay,
happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, panel members, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, Madam Chair.
No questions?
No.
Okay, if there are no questions, then discussion or a motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, there are a lot of properties that have garages in the rear and a lot of additions, again, that vary in size. I think that what's being proposed is reasonable, meets the 4 tests, fits within the context of the neighborhood, so I would move approval, including forestry condition number 1.
Okay, so a motion to approve, including forestry condition number 1, has been moved by Ms. Omen. Do we have a seconder? Second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Item number 26, 91 Macpherson Avenue. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have the cover letter from the applicant, as well as we have a C of A decision affecting the subject property. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself and your address.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Mel Rosenblatt. I'm representing the homeowner Kathy Oram. I'm asking that the committee grant a minor variance to increase the size of the garage from the 40 square meters. I was here before committee for the next door neighbor at 93 Macpherson. It was also the same situation where we asked the committee that we could make the garage wider in order to cover the full width of the property. That way we can maximize the full use of the land, and nobody can come through on either side, and it offers greater security that the property is closed off from the laneway. It's pretty much just, the garage and the extra square meters that we're asking for. If there's any questions.
Panel members, any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, so we'll go into discussion or a motion.
I'll just say this is truly minor.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's very representative of what's on that street.
Yeah.
So if there's no comments, I'm prepared to move a motion to approve the application, as I believe it is indeed minor.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Hayes. Do we have a seconder?
I seconded.
Second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? The application's been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2720 Sackville. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have email correspondence from Heritage Services. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry and Heritage Services. We have correspondence support from various owners on Sackville, Winchester, Bowman, and that is also including the directly adjacent property at 22 Sackville.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. You can please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Monica Kuhn. I'm the agent for the owner who is here. I just handed out a list of the letters of approval, which you have on file, including the two adjacent neighbors. One is physically attached, as well as a list of neighbors who gave their verbal approval as well. We're in a heritage district, so it's important for Heritage and for us to ensure that we're not changing the front facade. So we are proposing a third floor addition, but it's set back 14 feet from the front so that you can't see it from the street. We're proposing a rear two-story addition and then a third floor addition that's about 2/3 of the footprint. There are 3 variances. The first is GFA. We're allowed 1 times. We're asking for 1.17. So it's pretty minor, about 66 square feet. Main wall height, this has to do with the front wall. Again, the existing front wall is not changing, and this relates to the front wall of the addition, which is set back. So, it's pretty minor. It's like a few inches. And then the side yard setback has to do with a portion of the side of the third floor addition, which is lining up with the wall below. So we're supposed to have 0.45, and I think we're at 0.43. So again, it's minor.
Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions?
No. You're aware of the Heritage report?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we've been working with Heritage from the beginning. And forestry also, we've got a neighbor tree, but it's not an issue. It's already been cleared.
Okay. There are no other questions? Then a discussion or a motion?
I think this is fully appropriate to the site and is the correct way to expand the structure.
Okay. So any...
There's no further comments?
No, go ahead.
Move approval of the application.
Including?
Forestry condition number 1.
And Heritage.
And Heritage, yes.
Then I'll second.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Mr. Carlson, including forestry and heritage conditions, second by Ms. Oman. All in favor? So the application's been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 2839 Stafford Street. So the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We also have 2 form letters in support from 43 and 37 Stafford Street. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Kira Clarkson. I'm the applicant. My client, Kenneth, is right behind me here.
Okay, panel members, would you like a presentation or go directly into questions?
I don't think we need a presentation.
Yeah, we'll go directly into questions.
Okay.
Any questions? No?
It's pretty minor.
1-story rear addition.
Yeah. We're removing an addition and we're building a smaller addition, but making the plan more rational. Thank you.
So this is actually an improvement to the site in terms of...
I think so.
Okay. Okay, if there's no more questions, discussion, or a motion?
For you, Madam Chair, I feel that what's being proposed fits within the context of the neighborhood. There are many homes that have additions. This is not out of character. I feel the variances are minor, meet the 4 tests, and I would move approval of the application.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder? Second. Second by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Very much.
Item number 29 has been held. So item number 30, 150 Strathearn Road. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We also have a staff report from Transportation Services and 7 form letters in support from various owners/occupants of addresses on Strathearn Road, including 148 and 152, so two directly adjacent neighbors. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Tay Rook, planner for the owners of the property at 150 Strathearn Road. The proposal is to demolish the existing two-story dwelling and construct a new two-story single detached home. There are variances related to the width of the driveway, and I believe there's comments from Transportation Services indicating no objection to that variance. We're utilizing the existing curb cut, the existing curb driveway. However, it does flare out as you enter into the property. But if you look at the site itself, the existing current state is one in which the width of the driveway on the property is larger than the width that's permitted by the bylaw. In addition to that, there is no landscaping or front landscaping variances that are created as a result of this, but this is something that is reflective of the area in terms of driveway width contained within the property. There are variances related to the dwelling length, and if you look at the site plan, majority of the building itself is 16.89 meters. There is a one-story portion that's indicated in green on the screen there. That is the portion that is extending beyond the 17-meter mark. It is a one-story portion. It is something that's very minor in terms of projection, and I do believe you have received letters of support, 7 letters of support, specifically to the adjacent properties to the south and to the north. This is something that's very minor, and there are trees that are lined along the sides of the property and the rear yard, large mature trees, which in terms of if there's any impacts or views that will be mitigated as a result of this length variance. There's also variances related to the the area of the patio that's proposed on top of the single-story addition, and this is something that's existing in the area in terms of second-story patios. Once again, it is shaded and mitigated by the large trees that are located on either side, and once again, the neighbors on either side have no issues with this variance as well. Lastly, there is variances related to FSI. Subject site is highlighted in red, and the properties that I've highlighted in green are all those properties that are with FSIs of 0.69 or greater. Once again, there is no variances related to height. There is a small length variance, but in terms of side yards and such, majority of the building itself is contained within the allowable building envelope area. In terms of the side yard setbacks on the south side, you'll note that the existing dwelling is actually located closer to the lot line. The proposed is set back further, and there was a conscious effort made to jog the building as you go towards the rear to create a 1.2 meters side yard setback on the south side. So this, in terms of the building envelope itself and the way it's massed on the property as it relates to the side yards, it's actually narrower than what's existing there today. And from an impact perspective, we did try to respect the rear yards of the adjacent neighbor to the south by jogging the building back as you go further into this property towards the rear yard. There are no comments from city planning. I believe there's no comments from forestry, but if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
And the dots are indication of the support letters?
Correct.
Okay. Panel members, any questions?
So I noticed on your site plan that you say permeable pavers for the driveway. Is that existing, or that's what you're intending to?
That's proposed.
Proposed.
Okay.
So would you have any concern with that being a condition?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No. Okay, there's no more questions. Discussion or a motion?
I think what's being proposed and the information that's been put in front of us indicates I think this is appropriate and reasonable, meets the character of the area.
I would agree. I think it's quite sensitive development in relation to the both adjacent properties, and it seems appropriate for the site. I agree. Okay. Any other comments? I'll need a motion.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, I would propose to move a motion to approve this application, subject to the condition of the driveway being have permeable pavers, as I believe it is appropriate and meets the 4 tests under the Act.
Okay, so a motion to approve, including the permeable pavers condition, has been moved by Ms. Hayes. Do we have a seconder?
No.
Second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move forward with the contested item in this time slot. So Item number 21, 89 Waverley. Do we have the agent applicant? If you can please come up. If there are any contesting parties, if they can be please seated on my left-hand side. Okay, yeah, so if you can just come closer right here. And then, how many of you are planning to speak? Is it all three of you are planning to speak? Just one person? Okay, so just as long as... Okay, sounds good. So as long as you don't cover the same point. Okay, thank you. Okay, so before we proceed, let me just state what we have in our folder. Sorry, just one second. Okay, so the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have the cover letter from the agent. We have email correspondence from community planning as well as community planning as well. And then we have a staff report from urban forestry. We have correspondence in opposition from 64, 91, and 86 Waverley Road. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself and give us a brief presentation of your proposal.
Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Alex Avenue. I'm a land use planner, agent for the application, 89 Waverley Road, where we're proposing to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new detached dwelling. 4 variances are required to do so, being for density, exterior wall height, first floor height, and the location of the vehicle entrance. We've worked with staff in order to decrease the overall height. We've since removed that variance, resubmitted our plans, and are proposing those plans. I think it's now something that both staff and us can support or have no objection to. We've obviously submitted a cover letter, so I won't get into too many details about the specific variances. Obviously, the property is located in the Beaches. I think that the Beaches is, in my opinion, a pretty unique residential neighborhood designation in the city of Toronto, and moreover where our property is located in the Beaches, that being between the Beach, Queen, Woodbine, and Waverley, where there is a lot of, I'll say, active recreational uses. There's a pool there, tennis courts, a school with a large field right in the middle of the neighborhood, and obviously the beach. And I think this kind of mix of these uses relates to the very eclectic built form that we see in the neighborhood, where we have a range of built forms, that being from very large kind of beach homes with very large platforms and balconies to bungalows, semis, triplexes, duplexes, detached, anywhere from 1 to 3, and even more on the east side of the neighborhood, 4 stories. So, I mean, the area is also experiencing some growth and renewal. I do believe that the proposed application is in line with what's being approved and the way the neighborhood is going while respecting what's existing there. In terms of the variances, density, we are proposing 0.92 FSI. We did a research request. We found 15 variances within that study area. I had identified 4 of those exceed that 0.92, ranging from 1.01 to 1.24. Also, we don't have any coverage, depth.
Sorry, do you have a map of the properties you're speaking of?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. And then maybe if you can identify the addresses for the properties that are above 0.92 FSI.
The ones that exceed the 0.92 I have here, and they're located on that map in red, of course.
So where's the subject property?
The subject property is at the top right there, 89 Waverley. You see there's actually one just south on Waverley, that's 56 Waverley. We have 43 Woodbine. I have 102A Kippen-Davy and 66 Kenilworth. Those are the ones in red, and those are the ones that go from 1.01 to 1.24. I think the rest of the map is self-explanatory there. Again, as I said, we have no depth, length, coverage, front, side, rear setback variances. So with that being said, I do believe that we are in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, and it's not of such an FSI that will overwhelm the street. In my opinion, In terms of the exterior wall height variance, I do believe that the intent of this variance is to prevent the proliferation of kind of this three-story rectangular box-built form. I believe that our design has responded to this intent by pitching, going up to the flat roof, because we do have a flat roof. Going up to there, we do pitch our roof at the front and the sides a bit, so it doesn't have that that feeling of a rectangle. It's actually not a rectangle, let alone the dormers that we're using there and architectural elements to play off that. And this is something that in the surrounding area we do see. This will not be the only home with a flat roof, and there's many examples of that. I actually just walked the neighborhood the other day. I have some photos if you'd like to see. And moreover than that, we've stepped that third story back 7.5 meters from the street. So if you're standing on the street, it does give the impression of a two-story facade. In regards to the front vehicle entrance on lots with frontage lower than 7.6 meters, I think the point of this is to ensure that the garage does not dominate the facade. I think that we've done a good job of that. If you look at the facade, the garage isn't dominance there. We have multiple cantilevered portions.
Yeah, so you have 5 minutes. Since I asked the question, I'll give you extra 30 minutes. If you can,
Okay, great. Again, we have ample landscaping in the front and side yards. In the backyard, we have no setback variances. I do believe it's appropriate. In closing, we've worked with staff to revise the proposal. I do think it's something that we can support. Staff has no objections to it. I believe it's appropriate, and I'm here to answer any questions you have.
Perfect. So we're going to ask the questions after the contested neighbors had a chance to speak. So if we can have one of you please come up, introduce yourself and your address.
My name is Jeff Guthrie. I'm at 34 Martin Road in Bowmanville. I also represent the current estate owners and am soon to be the owner of 87 Waverley Road. We have an agreement to purchase. It's pretty much open and shut. It's a family home since the day it was built, which is 87 Waverley. While we don't necessarily oppose to the agent's plan to alter the building at this location, we are using this opportunity to put on public record and notify the owner of the home, Mr. Pan, and his representatives that we adamantly oppose any plan that will alter the shared driveway that exists and has existed for well over 30 years. I know that that doesn't necessarily include the bylaw changes, et cetera, that they're looking for, but I wanted to make sure that it was recognized that his proposal, both designs, will basically make that driveway unusable for the resident, for us at 87. Our lawyers are already well aware of this and plan on obviously going further with this. In our little meeting, the agent did note that there is no registered easement on the survey. However, according to our lawyers and pursuing further, I think it can be said that it doesn't necessarily equal easement acquired because we've acquired it by permission and use. That's all.
Okay. Panel members, do you have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, are there any other parties that would like to speak?
My name is Glenn Davis. I live at 25 Beach, but I'm here on behalf of Norma Burrows, my friend who's the neighbor to the north at 91 Waverley. This is a page showing the existing footprints from the applicant's material on file. It may not be the latest iteration, but it's the original footprint, so there's no changes that I'm aware of. I've put some dotted lines on there to draw Norma's issues to your attention. You'll see that her house and the house under discussion are actually physically touching. And her backyard is then somewhat blocked by the existing house, and it's a little bit further blocked by the neighbor to the south. The draft plans that I've seen show the new house sticking out what I consider and what she considers significantly further into the backyard, which, in her perspective, ruins the view and will shade her garden and deck, which is a big part of her life. Similarly to the front, there's comments from another neighbor in one of the objection letters that there's just too much house there, that it's shading and blocking the view as well as destroying the streetscape. There's also a large public park to the rear and a big tot lot and playground, and there's some concern on our behalf that that's going to change the perspective as well. This is a big house, notwithstanding the reduction that has been submitted by the agent. The agent has artfully explained that there are no recommendations or oppositions from staff, from which I infer, although I'm not familiar with this process, that they're leaving up to the committee to decide if these are subjective within the minor, in air quotes, meaning of the variance. In Norma's objection letter, which I crafted, we also tabled her very serious concerns about construction issues. I'm told by staff, Ms. Stemshorn, that the building department is not normally a commentator at these proceedings, which I understand, but her daughter, Norma's daughter-in-law, is an architect and has pointed out that the footings required for a 3-story brick home are substantial and will make her house fall down. So those may or may not be addressed through the construction process.
Just to interrupt just quickly, so this is, I believe this is a site plan of the current.
This is the current footprints of the houses.
So with the proposed development, it is actually set back much further from 91.
Correct.
Yeah.
Plus a deck, which presumably will have a privacy fence. That's not here.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you're aware of that it is set back from the.
Well, that was my point. It's going from a gradual increase further south as you move south. It would be substantially further out. There's no measurement that I could see on there whether it was 6 feet or 10 feet or what.
Okay.
But it's substantial, and that's part of the genesis of the increased floor area.
Okay.
My observation is that many of these requested variances are based on a relatively bright line test. What the bylaw says, the committee obviously makes the call whether the variance is minor. Norma really couldn't care less whether the front door is a couple of inches higher or lower. I don't think there's even a serious objection to the garage, although there is an issue about the rest of us have to have street parking because there's so much street parking. So if they don't comply with the bylaw, why shouldn't Mr. Pan be forced to comply with that as well? Again, going to the more subjective things, the architectural drawings, it's an attractive house, but because of its size at 3 stories, in Norma's view, it doesn't fit in with the neighborhood. There are larger houses, but they're considerably front and a deck on the back. And that's sort of the variety, the eclectic variety of houses as the agent has referred to. So in summary, respecting the time, the proposed requested variances are not minor in our perspective. We don't think the proposal is desirable in its current format for the development of the area. And I will say that Norma is not oblivious to the fact that if Mr. Pan is successful, the value of her property will go up, but we have to live in the neighborhood, not just enjoy the value of the property. We submit that it doesn't meet the intent and purpose of the zoning code, or they wouldn't have a zoning code with these provisions. And lastly, that the official plan is not being conformed with. So we respectfully ask that you reject Mr. Pan's application because his rights end where ours start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you. If we can have the next neighbor come up, please.
Hi, my name is Bruce Pope. I live across the street from the development at 86 Waverley Road, and you have a letter from me. I don't want to talk about the specifics. There's been enough of that. I just ask you to consider a motion to send this back to staff who have looked at the applicant's information, and in consideration of that information, they've passed this on to you. And so the neighbors had no input to staff's consideration. And I would just like to see them brought back in. If you could send this back to staff to consider what neighbors are saying and give you their advice based on both sides.
That is not the general procedure. General procedure is that the staff will provide us report if they either support or oppose the application, and then it's up to us to hear both sides. So the planning department is considered as one stakeholder in the decision-making process, and the neighbors are considered as another stakeholder. So we're the ones who are kind of mediating between the neighbors as well as the planning department and the owner of the property is proposing changes.
Except that staff seem to have passed it on to you as though it's kosher, being unaware of, for example, the shared drive. So staff didn't have the information that they needed to have to simply pass it on.
If I could just add to what the chair has said, is we do have correspondence via email that staff was dealing with the applicant, and as the applicant mentioned, and as is stated in the email, the original height was 11.82. Staff asked them to come down below 10 meters, which they have done, so that was their main concern. So that's been addressed, and that's why we don't have a staff report in front of us at this time.
If I could further add, well, Mr. Pope still has time to speak. To be clear, the role of staff in this process is to bring us the information. So if there's something you think that we should know, please tell us, because we are ultimately the ones making a decision as to the file.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if we can have please the agent come up and respond to the raised concerns.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate the residents' concerns. We chatted outside in detail about this, and we do appreciate their thoughts on the proposal. For number 86, I won't respond. I think the committee has done a good job of responding to that. 87, in terms of the driveway. And we chatted about this, and I was aware of this beforehand. There is no easement on title. We have a survey. The land registry search was done. It does show no easement. I mean, further to that, I understand what they're saying. Moreover, we don't have a side yard setback variance on that side. For what it's worth, the two homes are still going to be, I believe, just shy of 3 meters apart from one another. I mean, I don't think that's relevant, really, given the facts on the ground, but in any case, I just want to recognize that we're still going to have almost 3 meters. In terms of number 91, to the north, as you said, we are changing the footprint. We're bringing the building slightly further south. In terms of what that means during the construction period, it's my understanding that's something that staff will deal with after this, at the building permit stage. If it's deemed unsafe or what have you, that is something that they'll address. In terms of too much house, or that we're moving it back, the actual length of the building isn't changing. We're just moving it back 1 meter. So it's not getting any longer. Even if it was, we don't have a length variance, we don't have a depth variance, we don't have a rear yard setback variance. This is the building envelope that we are building in terms of length, depth, and setbacks on all 4 sides. So while I respect what's being said, it's the owner's right to build within that envelope. And I think I've pretty much touched on everything that the residents' concerns were. Unless the committee has questions, I'm happy to answer.
So you mentioned you have photographs of the properties that you were speaking to earlier. Do you have any photographs with internal garages, 3 stories, and with similar FSI that you're asking for? And if you can give us the addresses for those.
I don't actually have the addresses for these, but first of all, this right here is 89, right? So this is 91, and right beside we have not quite the same as what we're proposing, but a similar flat roof portion with some pitching, and that's only 2 doors to the side. These 3 homes, I don't have addresses again, these are all on Waverley Road. And then I have some here again within the area that I've identified. This is, I believe, on Kipping Davy. So obviously we have 2 similar, well, I'd say ours is better than this, but 2 more modern homes right here. If you want to talk about integral garages, we have one right here. Again, flat roofs portrayed. And it also shows, I think, the eclectic nature of the neighborhood. And then I think the other photos I have are quite similar. I mean, I have these here, and they're, again, similar photos. But if we're talking about integral garages, that's not something that doesn't exist in the neighborhood. There are integral garages. There's carports. There's street parking. It's very eclectic. This is not something that hasn't been done or doesn't exist.
So with respect to the main wall variances, you gave us some examples of other properties in the area with the FSI that you're requesting.
Correct.
Any of those properties that you've shown us here, do they have wall heights similar to what you're requesting?
I'm not sure. I don't believe so.
Can you point us to any that have the wall heights that you're requesting?
I don't believe I have any, no.
Okay, thank you.
Again, the study area that we've done, if you want, I can put it up for you just to show you the area that we looked at.
Sorry, I thought that had only referred to FSI, but I might be mistaken.
So, I mean, again, this is our area. So when we did the C of A research request, we didn't go into some whole big area to try to capture as much as we could in order to have more variance to support us. We did something that we thought made sense. And going back to the eclectic nature of this pocket, Queen, Lake, Woodbine, Waverley, that's what we made our decision on. I mean, even on the east side here, and you can see that that rectangle to the left that's cut out of the bylaw, I believe that's, you have like walk-up apartments there, you have 4-story, again, and that's just down the street from what we're proposing, so.
Any other questions? Sorry, so the procedure is that now we'll go into committee for a discussion and then a motion, so there is no opportunity. Is it possible to repeat something that no, that is not the procedure. Okay. Panel members, any more questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, discussion?
I have real difficulty with the prospect of a mansard roof being in keeping with the area, and I do have concerns about the wall height. Particularly, I mean, there's not an actual height variance, but a combination of both a mansard roof with the flat top and main wall height variance suggests that it's larger than intended, or anticipated anyway. And I'd also say that the integral garage is certainly not common to the area.
So there's a number of them on the street.
Exist.
At least, yeah, 6+.
Say to exist.
I hear the agent in terms of that there is no length, depth variances. The height variance has also been removed. But I am concerned about the main wall height as well as the FSI. I mean, looking at this map, there's 4 properties that have FSI over 0.92 for this large of an area. So I'm not sure if that could be considered an established character trait of this neighborhood in terms of such a large FSI. Any other comments?
I'm a little bit conflicted on this one. I mean, there's a lot of larger homes, tall homes in this area. I think that they did a reasonable job with respect to trying, from a character perspective, meet it, especially with a step back from the front. And the integral garage is not unique to this property. It's the side, the wall, and it doesn't need an overall height variance, or length variance, or depth variance, or coverage. It's whether or not the wall height in and of itself is such.
I would echo Ms. Hayes' comments. I am also somewhat conflicted. There are no side yard variances, and as well as the other variances that my colleague just mentioned. And I do feel that evidence has been provided by the applicant that does support the eclecticness of the neighborhood. I think this is a tough one. They have worked with planning to reduce the height from what they had before quite a bit.
Okay. So panel members, I need a motion.
I would move refusal of the application, as I don't believe it's within the intent of the official plan in that it threatens to destabilize the physical character of the community.
Okay, so a motion to refuse has been moved by Mr. Carlson. Do we have a seconder? Okay, so I can't vote, right? So that motion fails. Okay, I need another motion.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'd move for approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 1, as I believe it has been demonstrated that what is being requested is would not be out of character with the neighborhood. Meets the 4 tests.
Okay, so a motion to approve, including forestry condition number 1, has been moved by Ms. Hayes. Do we have a seconder?
Second.
Second by Ms. Omen. Okay, all in favor? Dissenting? Okay, Mr. Carlson, and then I abstain. Vote. Okay, so the application's been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Please make sure to fill out the decision request cards if you want to be informed of any appeals procedures. Okay, item number 29, 129 Beaconsfield Avenue. Okay, if we can have the agent applicant please come up. If we can have the contesting parties please be seated to my left-hand side. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We also have a staff report from community planning.
Hi, my name is Daniel Brodsky. I represent the owner of 129 Beaconsfield.
Okay.
Well, I think you have all the information, except that I just want to add 2 things. We got the report from the planners recommending to make the 3rd floor balcony that we're proposing. We have, in our plans, we had a 4-foot high fence, and they recommended to make it 5-foot minimum with a privacy for the neighbors for both sides. We have no problem with that.
Okay.
And the second thing is, on the main floor, we propose to do a covered deck at the rear of the property on the main floor. And I just met one of the neighbors outside from the next door house, and she had issues with that covered porch, thinking that in the future they might close it and it will become a room. So I spoke with the owner and he agreed not to do the cover, to build the porch, but without the roof on it.
So in our plans, does the rear porch, is it covered in our plans?
Yes. I can.
It's covered, not enclosed.
Sorry? Which diagram is it? Because I'm looking at this one.
Isn't this the roof?
Yeah, I have plans for when they're dated. Mines are different, so we don't.
You can see the elevation over there if you want. It's showing the.
So Madam Secretary Treasurer, because it seems like we have different plans.
Mine dated January 18.
Oh, there's another set.
Yeah,
There's two sets, so.
Yeah, there is the existing and the proposed. So
Oh, that's
the A7 is the one that you're looking. That's fine. That's the one over there.
Okay, sorry, okay.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
So you can see both items: the fence on top on the third floor,
Yes.
and the roof over the porch.
So you're amending the application to remove the covered porch?
Well, we maintain the porch, but
Cover,
the cover. And we'll make the fence on the third floor balcony 5-foot minimum as requested by the planners.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, actually, we'll proceed with questions after the neighbor had a chance.
Okay.
Okay, so if you can please come up and introduce yourself and your address.
Hi, I'm Kate Branscombe. I live at 127 Beaconsfield. This is really weird.
Okay.
So I just had some basic concerns, but we spoke about it, and the covered porch was just the height of it would be very visible from our yard, and the owner has agreed to change it a little bit. So we have no major concerns because it doesn't seem to be all that different from many of the renos in the neighborhood.
Okay, sounds good. So now you're in support of the application as long as the cover.
Yeah, yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so if we can have the agent please come up again. Panel members, do you have any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, discussion or a motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think that what's being proposed fits within the character of the neighborhood, and I would be prepared to move approval if there are no other comments from my colleagues. And I would include the condition in the planning report dated September 11th, as well as removing that cover from the rear porch on drawing A7.
Okay, so that motion to approve the application, including two outline conditions, has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder? Second, Mr. Carlson. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we proceed with the next time slot, maybe I'll vet it before we take a bathroom break. So do we have the agent applicant for item number 3192 Glen Road? Okay, do we have any contesting parties? 92 Glen Road? No? Okay. Item number 3293 Berkeley Street, agent or applicant? Okay, any contesting parties? Item number 3355 Bloor Street West, agent or applicant? Okay. Do we have any parties contesting the application? Item number 3466 Westwood Avenue, agent or applicant? Okay, any interested parties? Item number 35902 Eastern Avenue, agent or applicant? Okay, any interested parties? Okay, so they're interested parties, so that item will be held down, so we strongly advise you to step outside and to discuss any outstanding issues. Item number 3664 Peard Road, agent or applicant? Any interested parties? Okay. Item number 3759 Gloucester Street, agent or applicant? Any interested parties? Okay, so the only item that's held is item number 35902 Eastern Avenue. Okay, so we'll take a 5 minutes or 7-minute bathroom break. So we'll start 5 before 3 o'clock, and we'll proceed with item number 31 when we get back. Thank you. Okay, so if we're ready, we're going to start with item number 31, 92 Glen Road. We can have the agent applicant please come up. So the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have email correspondence from city planning, as well as from Heritage Preservation Services. We have staff report from Urban Forestry and Heritage Preservation Services. And then we have correspondence and support from 94 Glen Road, so directly adjacent neighbor. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Hi, Madam Chair, committee members. I'm William Dewson, architect and agent for the owners, Richard Day and Mary Susie Smith. I also have an additional letter of support from the neighbor due south at 90A, which I would like to submit to the committee, if I may.
Yep. Panel members, would you like a presentation or go directly into questions? We'll go directly into questions. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Dewson, can you speak to the area of the platform, the variance that you're requesting?
Yes, we are the area of the platform is here. Proposed wood platform. It's a raised wood platform. There is we're asking for a variance along the south property line to allow access to the platform, and it's we've raised it to create outdoor seating area to protect the tree. In order not to do it in hardscaping, we've raised the deck, permeable deck that will allow rain and water to through and protect them against the
I might not have been clear, but I was referring to the third floor platform.
Oh.
Yeah, the size.
Here's the third floor platform in this location. There's an existing third floor platform. The existing rear addition follows this line right here, and it is an existing third floor platform we're merely replacing. We've worked with the next door neighbor to keep the platform back of this chimney so as not to disturb their line of sight. Proposing a green roof in this location. We've also worked with this neighbor, 90 at Glen Road, in order to push the fence along this side back 5 feet from the edge of the addition on the south side. That's the platform that I believe it's 27.
How common are the third floor platforms in the area? How common are the third floor platforms in the area? Such large, are there any other houses, for examples?
I can't give you specific examples. I've been here at 6 Mackenzie. There's been an approved platform for similar size, probably about 20 meters. That's my own project a couple of years ago. It's been brought forth to the committee.
So is the existing platform permitted by way of variance or simply built?
I don't know that. That was existing when the owner of the property purchased the property.
Okay. Board members, any other questions? No other questions? Okay, so we have no more questions. In committee discussion?
Through you, Madam Chair, My main concern was really the deck, but seeing it actually on the picture and actually visually seeing what's on either side, which appears to be a brick wall other than the portion facing forward, which is more or less looking out, like to the side of the building. I don't feel that it creates any privacy issues. With the addition of the heritage conditions in the report on September 10th, I would be okay to move approval if there are no other comments.
Yeah, I think that the size of the deck concerned me as well, but I think that we've seen similar ones in the neighborhood. But I think the step back, I'm satisfied from an overlook perspective, although the size certainly is well in excess of what the bylaw allows. But I think the other variances are reasonable and actually match from depth perspective what's around it.
And looking at that rendition, I mean, it's totally stepped back from any windows, and then it's got the side screening as well.
So there's no overlook issue.
So there's, yeah.
I would agree.
If there are no other comments, then through you, Madam Chair, I would move approval of the application, including forestry condition number 1, as well as the conditions from Heritage outlined in the September 10th report. Planning was okay. I don't believe there were any conditions.
Okay.
Second that.
Okay, so a motion to approve, including the forestry and heritage condition, has been moved by Ms. Oman, second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move forward with item number 32, 93 Berkeley Street and 111 to 124, I believe, Parliament Street. So the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have the cover letter from the solicitor, M. Kovar. We have a cover letter from the applicant. We have an OMB decision affecting the subject property. We have C of A decisions affecting subject property. We have site-specific bylaws affecting the subject property. We have email correspondence from city planning, from traffic planning, and from Heritage Preservation Services. And then we have staff report from community planning. Okay, so we have two staff reports from community planning. If you can please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kim Kovar, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Berkeley Parliament, Inc. This is an existing, almost an existing building under construction on the site now. It's an approved 24-story project. It's well out of the ground now. My client tells me we're at the 14th story right now. So the 4-level underground parking garage is completely finished. And this application concerns the parking existing in the building today. At the time we made the application to the committee, we had sold 88% of the units and had a very significant supply of parking unsold in the garage. And so we made an application for permission to convert a number of those spaces to commercial parking. Since the application was submitted in May, the building has entirely sold out. 100% of the units are now sold, and we still have 64 unsold parking spaces in the garage. I'm sorry, that was the original number. We still have 53 unsold parking spaces in the garage. And so the application remains, we are asking for permission to convert 48 of those 53 remaining spots to commercial parking. The unsold 5 spots would be continued to be owned by the owner, and if future purchasers down the road, when units turn over, wanted to buy a spot, there would be 5 available for that use. This application has nothing to do with the other 30 spots in the garage, which are being dedicated for visitors and for general public parking. There was a report submitted from BA in support of the application. The transportation memo must have just come in this morning because I had checked. I have the planning memo, but not transportation. I'm assuming they didn't have a concern with the BA report. Is that correct?
Yeah, they have no objections
Yeah.
originally of the hearing.
And we had discussed it with planning as well, and planning doesn't have any objections either. But you will note in the planning memo, and there were 2, so I just want to make sure you're looking at the most recent one, which is dated the 19th. There was an earlier one from the 13th, which I think is superseded by the 19th. So you can see what planning is asking for. One of the variances we requested is to vary the definition of non-residential GFA. Normally, in 43886, parking which is provided accessory to a principal use upstairs, meaning the units, is excluded from the calculation of GFA. But when you convert it to commercial parking as a principal use, it now counts. It's no longer excluded. So I applied for a variance, as I've done in the past, to vary the definition of non-res GFA to exclude commercial parking spaces, which has always been fine up to now. In this case, the planning department wrote a memo and asked that the variances be revised, not to change the result, but to change the way that they're framed, in order that instead of asking for a variance to exclude commercial parking from the GFA, ask for a variance to increase the GFA to permit the commercial parking to be counted. The result is identical, but it's a matter of wording. So they have asked that you take variance number 2, and you have 2 variance number 2s. So it is the second one. It's the one that amends bylaw 43886. So it'll be the second last variance on your list. Replace that with the 2 variances that staff have suggested. And I have no objection to that. The result is identical. And the real reason staff are asking you to do it that way, I don't think it's so much a matter of form. It clothes them with the jurisdiction then to request a contribution toward community benefits under your jurisdiction under 45(9). My client has consulted with the councillor's office and is prepared to make the contribution that was agreed upon. And so that is the condition of approval that planning staff are asking you to impose. And they have set it out in 3 long paragraphs in Appendix 1 of their report. And as I say, my client has no objection to making the contribution toward community benefits.
Madam Secretary Treasurer, do you want to amend the application then to replace the variance with the 2 variances that the staff proposed, and then just include 1 condition in terms of the Section 45 community benefits? Or
we are in agreement with that, if that's the way the committee wants to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any concerns with respect to the replacement of those variances, creating any confusion to the people who receive notice of this meeting?
As I said, the effect is identical. Instead of saying the 725 square meters doesn't count, they said it does count, and so we're increasing the permission by 725 square meters. It is the identical result.
So you would say no, okay. Thank you.
I would agree.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, if no more questions, discussion or motion?
I would move approval as amended by the recommendation of the planning report dated the 19th. As well, no, that was everything. So move approval as amended.
Remember the 1 condition?
And subject to the community benefits condition.
Okay, so a motion to approve the amended application, including the condition for the Section 45 benefits, has been moved by Mr. Carlson. Do we have a seconder? Second, Ms. Hayes. All in favor? So the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving forward, item number 3355 Bloor Street West. The committee has in front of us, if we can have the agent or the owner please come up. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have the cover letter from the agent. We have number of decisions affecting the subject property. We have site-specific bylaw affecting the subject property, and then we have email correspondence from community planning.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ann Benedetti of Goodman's LLP, and with me I have representatives of Manufacturers Life Insurance Company, the applicant, the project architect, B+H, and the project managers at Colliers. And we're here to request actually 1 variance, and that is in regard to minor, very technical changes that were addressed. The Manulife Center is currently being revitalized further to approvals from this committee obtained in 2015. And as part of that construction of 2 minor technical exceedances were identified. We've been working with city planning. This is a Gold Star project. Those two, there is one on Balmuto Street. So the Manulife Center fronts on 3 streets, Bloor Street, Bay Street, and Balmuto, and the residential fronts on Charles. And what you'll see in the image that I've put up is if you look to Balmuto, which is the bottom of the drawing, there's a bubble and a very thin blue line. And what there is at that point is we are requesting a 0.21 meter exceedance, and that's because in that area, in order to revitalize the center and to put the cladding in place, as is required, we're actually putting that cladding on the existing building. So that's why there's that very minor exceedance. On the Bay Street side, so in the bubble on the Bay Street side, the request is so small you really can't almost even see it. There's a very small blue box, which is a second floor notch that actually exists at the Manulife Center that simply was not tracked in the plan that was approved in 2015. So those are the two pieces. I'm happy to illustrate the center, to go into these in more detail with the various drawings you have. I'm in the committee's hands and we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions?
I think that was sufficient.
Okay, so we're in committee discussion or a motion?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think that these are very minor and technical in nature, and as outlined by the submission that we have on paper, as well as what Ms. Benedetti said, I would move approval of the application, as I feel it meets the 4 tests.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 3466 Westwood Avenue. Okay, the committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. So if you can please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lawrence Warner. I own the property with my wife, Nancy Ward.
Okay, panel members, this seems quite minor. Would you like a presentation or directly into questions? Do we have any questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll go into the committee for a discussion or a motion.
I think this is indeed minor. I don't see, it is on, the light just doesn't work.
Okay.
I don't see that it's out of character, and no negative impact. So if there's no other comments, I'd be prepared to move a motion to approve the application, as I believe it meets the requirements of the Planning Act.
Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Hayes. Do we have a seconder? Yeah. Mr. Carlson, all in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 35 is being held. So item number 36, 64 Peard Road. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We also have a staff report from Urban Forestry, and then we have 6 form letters in support from various owners/occupants on Peard Road, including the one adjacent property at 62. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Parisa Amiru. I'm the architect and the agent on this application. We are requesting for variances which are minor in the nature, and I'm here if you need any presentation. Happy to answer you.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions?
No.
No.
Okay. No questions? Okay, no questions, then we're in committee discussion or a motion.
I think this is a very straightforward application. Both of the adjacent homes are actually 2 stories, so I think this fits certainly within the context of the neighborhood. There are also integral garages, so I would be prepared to move approval if there are no other comments, including forestry condition number 3.
Okay, so a motion to approve, including forestry condition 3, has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder? Sure. Second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 37, 59 Gloucester Street. The committee has in front of us plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have the cover letter from the agent, and then we have 7 form letters in support by various owners, occupants on Gloucester Street.
Madam Chair, I would bring staff's attention to the typo in the purpose.
Where's the typo?
Legalize.
Oh, the legalize, okay. And then we have 7 form letters in support from various owners / occupant on Gloucester Street. You have any directly adjacent neighbors? 61 and 57, so both neighbors have signed support. Okay, panel members, there's 2 variances. Do you need a presentation? No? Okay, we'll go directly into questions.
No questions.
Okay, yeah, so there's no build form changes done.
Just when was the attic converted?
I believe it was 2008 is the building permit on record at the city.
Okay, so a permit was issued without zoning?
A permit was issued for work on the 1st and 2nd floors. And my understanding, I was involved in that work, my understanding is that the attic was converted as part of that work, and it was represented by the contractor at the time that the permits had been correctly amended. The issue had recently come to light earlier this year, and we've been working nonstop to make that correction and get everything in order.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, excuse me. It's Drew Adams, and I'm the architect and agent.
Panel members, any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, let's say that the actual FSI variance is not so minor that it's nothing, but there's no exterior impact here. This is entirely appropriate.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no further comments.
Okay, so a motion to approve the variance application has been moved by Mr. Carlson. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Hayes. All in favor? The application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move forward with item number 35902 Eastern Avenue. If we can have the agent applicant please come up, and the parties contesting the applications to be seated on my left-hand side. Okay.
They're just here to observe at this point because I have some items that I'm just going to clarify.
Okay. So I'm going to read what the committee has in front of us. We have plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, elevations. We have a staff report from TRCA. We have 8 form letters in support by various owners and occupants on Eastern Avenue and Minto Street. And then we have correspondence in opposition from 904 and 900 Eastern Avenue. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Franco Romano here on behalf of the owner. So this is an application that has its genesis as a building permit application, and you'll see the building permit site plan is on the overhead. It's identical to the site plan that's in the Committee of Adjustment file, except for the red and green notations relating to the building permit. So this was a proposal for underpinning, partial new foundation, and then a 2nd floor addition. And then, of course, the walls aren't capable of supporting the 2nd floor. So the building permit was issued, TRCA issued their permit for flood proofing, and now it's considered a new building instead of a building addition. So much of what you see in terms of the variances are existing conditions. So they were existing conditions. The only ones that are new or would affect new would be floor space index and the main wall height. So the building permit was issued with a floor space index that complied at 1 times. But this, based on the fact that there's a new having to come in front of committee as new build, they enlarged the 2nd floor a little bit. So that's why you have 1.1 times. So it's basically a top up because it used to be 1-story dwelling. Now, to show you, you've probably seen where it is today. It's the ghost house. My daughter calls it the ghost house. So it is the one with the tarp in the front, and you'll see the 2 stories next door. The 2 stories next door are semi-detached. There's also employment automotive uses on Eastern Avenue. So if we look at this building, 1st floor, if you add a 2nd story, that's how you come to the 1.1 times. Because if we go back to the site plan, we'll see that the building is pretty much in line with the neighboring buildings. One's a little longer, one's a little shorter. So existing floor space index along the street is at about 1 times, if not over 1 times, including the neighbors. So two issues with respect to the neighbors. If we look on the left-hand side, there's a broken line that runs along part of the west wall. That is a walkway easement in between the two properties, 900 and 902. Half of that is 900 and half of that is 902, and the gentleman at 900 wanted to make sure that that is not being affected, and it is not being affected. So that is open, and that's what allows for access from front to back. The other neighbor at 904 has a concern because the foundation is actually slightly encroaching onto their property. So what I have undertaken to do, and I've discussed this with the owner, is that they're going to shave off that part that's above grade. So then it's no longer encroaching above grade onto the neighbor's property. So I've given that undertaking. So subject to any questions, this is basically a top-up, although it's turned into a new build with respect to the purpose of the application and construct a new two-story dwelling. You see that it is low profile. So let me get the elevations. Because there is a parking variance, so basically nobody along Eastern here has parking. You have to have street parking, and you go off onto the side streets like Minto to park. So that's the dwelling itself. You'll see that the eaves is just below the 7.59 that I've written in there, and then the main wall, for some reason, they're taking it to the gable at the front, and at the back it's actually lower. I can show you the rear elevation. It's actually lower than that, but that's the effect of the main wall variance. I do have an elevation that'll show you that it is not for the full extent. See how the walls taper down, but those parts that have got those vertical lines is what's triggering the main wall height variance at the front and the back. So subject to any questions?
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions? Okay, no more questions, discussion or motion?
I was just going to say that really we're dealing with two very minor variances given the existing condition.
Clarification that it's not actual, because my initial questions were like, if this is a new build, why can't you comply with the setbacks? But now that we've heard that it's building on the existing foundation, so that was an existing condition, I agree with you.
It's Eastern Avenue. This is in keeping with what's there.
Yeah. So those facts alleviated my concerns with respect to the setbacks. The FSI doesn't cause me any concern from that perspective.
Okay. Any other comments? If no more comments, this motion, please.
Okay. I'll go through you, Madam Chair. Move to a motion to approve the application, having heard the evidence from the applicant's agent that I believe the application is inappropriate and is in the character of the neighborhood.
Second. Okay, so a motion to approve has been moved by Ms. Hayes, second Ms. Oman. All in favor? Okay, all in favor, application has been approved. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have 5 minutes before the next time slot.
We have 40 minutes.
45 minutes.
Oh, okay. We're darn. Danger of being too efficient.
Yes. That's okay.
It has literally never happened.
It happened once, actually.
No.
It takes forever for us to review it. That's part of the problem. It's like 10 hours.
Well, and they want a deferral on number 40 too, so maybe there's only 2 left to do. So I might be only all night on me two left. You guys will be able to get home before midnight. Pardon?
You're also assuming our documents for Friday?
Yeah.
Next week?
Yeah. Wednesday.
Yeah.
this is good.
When you want to look how many applications we're doing.
I didn't look yet. Yes. I can look. Yeah, this one, the light doesn't work.
Our packages are here. Oh, we can take them home with us? Yeah. Yay.
One day, I thought the mic wasn't working, and there was only 3 of us, so I went and sat over there so I could have a mic, and it turns out it's just the light. It's just the light that doesn't work.
things worked out. Yeah. We'll be in touch.
need to, they're gonna vet the agent first. So they'll call the application, the agent will put their hand up, and then they'll say, is there anyone in opposition? So you can put your hand up, and then they'll advise you to go outside and discuss the issue. And then you can come back, and if you still want to speak, you can speak. Okay? Are you here in opposition? Okay, so we're going to... Oh, so you're the last one. Okay, so they're going to let the adjuster first. So right up here at the top. So they'll say, if there's any application, they'll put their hand up, and then they'll say, is there anyone here in opposition? You can make your instructions. Okay, and then they'll advise you to exit the business and go speak outside about the issue. If you come to a resolution, great. If not, then you're still have to speak to just
Yeah, the applicant or the owner or the owner's friend? So first the applicant speaks for 5 minutes, making a presentation, addressing any questions they can call. And then anybody who wishes to speak about the application and the agent, as members of the public, they'll have the opportunity to speak. They'll also have 5 minutes to make their presentation, and the committee can ask questions as well. And then afterwards, the applicant has a chance to speak. And that is also limited to 5 minutes. So after all of that, the committee then goes into, they cut off all questions and they deliberate amongst themselves, given the information, to make a decision. You go inside and talk to them, you don't want to go. Yeah. Some indication of some of the stuff I've seen a lot of. I have one that I can abstain. Oh, no worries. Yeah, that's what I read. To discuss or change their, they requested it. Yeah. I think, no, that's fine. I think in effect, not right.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, please turn off your cell phone or use the silent feature. Please note that today's hearing is being live streamed on YouTube as part of a pilot project. Welcome. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustments considers applications for minor variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to create new lots. Hearing procedure. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require more in-depth review. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or applicant is present in interest and wishes to address the committee. If there are people of interest, the matter will be held until all non-contested applications have been cleared from the agenda. If your item is held, we strongly advise you to meet with interested parties outside of the hearing room in an effort to resolve any outstanding issues or concerns. If no person is present in interest, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the agent or applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. When addressing the committee, please come to the podium, clearly state your name and address, and file a decision request card, which I believe are available at the end of the horseshoes, so that we have correct information for our records. If you have a written submission that you read from, please hand it in to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer when you are done, who is seated on my right-hand side. First, the applicant or agent will make a presentation to the committee of the application as submitted. Then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be allowed to speak. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to represent the group's interests. We want to hear your views. However, covering the same points will not advance your cause. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their submission. When all speakers are finished, the applicant has an opportunity to rebut only the related issues that were raised. The matter will then be taken into the committee for a decision. This will mark the end of all discussion. Please remember to confine your comments to the matters outlined in the application. If you do not agree with the committee's decision, you may file an appeal. Almost all appeals will be dealt with by a new tribunal called the Toronto Local Appeal Body, or TLAB. For more information on the TLAB, please visit the website or the C of A website. Appeal instructions will be included at the bottom of every decision. In order to receive a copy of the committee's decision and to be informed of all appeal proceedings, you must fill out the decision request card referred to earlier. Please include your email address, as TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. Please leave your completed form with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer or member of her staff before you leave today, and decisions will be mailed within 3 business days. Okay, and then just please note that the committee will not be entertaining any extensive revisions at the hearings today. If you have, in the instance that you have extensive revisions, we'll defer the applications to make sure that the revisions are accurate and that all parties have been notified of the changes. Okay, so are there any agents or applicants that wish to close or defer their application? Okay, so. Just before we proceed, sorry, are there any declaration of interest for this time slot from panel members or staff? No? Okay, so if you can please introduce yourself and the item that you're...
Thank you, Madam Chair. Franco Romano here on behalf of the owner for 795 Manning Avenue. So that's items 40, A, B, and C.
Okay, just 1 second. Are there any contested parties or parties who are contesting this application interest? Okay, so if I can have all of you be seated on my left-hand side, or if you have a spokesperson who is representing the group. Okay, so Mr. Ramo, if you can just right here. And so right now we'll be speaking specifically to the deferral rather than the application. So Mr. Romano, if you can just present to us why you are seeking a deferral.
Yes, planning staff contacted me late last Thursday, and I had some discussions with them, and we discussed some revisions, but rather than go hastily into some sort of revision, I'd prefer to defer the application so then we can do a proper job of consulting and going back and with a revised design.
Okay.
So I know that they don't have a concern with the severance, but in terms of the built form, we're looking at some revisions. So I like an opportunity to further consult with at least staff, and I know I've had some discussions with at least one of the neighbors before.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a spokesperson for the neighbors or someone who can represent the interests of the neighbors? Yeah. So if you can please come up and speak, introduce yourself, your address, and if you can speak to the deferral. Yeah, come up to a podium.
Good afternoon. My name's Tiziano Zaghi. I'm a planner, and I was retained by one of the neighbors, David and Stephanie Galpern, who reside at 797 Manning Avenue. That's the residence immediately north of the subject property. I've been retained by them. I understand that some of my comments may represent a wider breadth of the community, but I haven't been officially retained by other neighbors, nor have I talked to other neighbors in the
fair
community.
Enough. So right now we're speaking to deferral.
Yes. No.
Do you believe that the interested neighbors are in favor of deferral, or?
I'll speak on behalf of my client.
Okay.
And they would be interested in the deferral.
Okay.
As mentioned, they're not, at least my client's position and my position as a planner, we don't object to the severance of creating the 2 lots for semi-detached dwellings. We are very concerned with the number, if not all, the variances being requested as part of the application.
Okay.
There is one point I'd like to make. Because of the number of objections, reviewing the file, I think there's over 30 letters from the community, which is significant. The planning report indicated that the planning staff would sit down with the applicant and work on a revised design. I think it might be prudent to have some representation from the neighborhood involved in that process, so that when it comes back to the committee, you're not just starting from scratch and the committee and the residents looking at it and then deciding do they like it or not. I think it would be an effective way in getting the community involved.
Okay. I believe all the panel members will agree with that comment, so we'll ask the agent to consider that. Are there any other members of the community that would like to speak in terms of the deferral? Okay, so I'm assuming you're all in favor of the deferral. So if you can please fill out the decision request cards so we can have your information on record in terms of who showed up today. Okay. So Mr. Romano, how do you feel about the comment in terms of having the neighbors being present, either doing a separate consultation meeting or at the meeting with the planner?
I'm always happy to consult with neighbors if there is a point person, and it might be the gentleman that just spoke, then that makes it easier rather than trying to deal with various parties. So I'm certain I can talk to them after you've decided on the deferral request, and we can coordinate something. No worries.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, any questions? Okay, no questions. Discussion or?
Through you, Madam Chair, we've got the Seton Village Residents Association, the local councillor, the planning department, as well as a lot of individual objectors, all in agreement with respect to the deferral. I would also strongly encourage Mr. Romano to have community consultation, and if need be, perhaps it can be set up through the local councillor's office if you're unable to set that up yourself, because he may be able to reach out to all the residents. So I would be prepared to move deferral, including recirculation fees.
Okay. So a motion to defer, including recirculation fees, has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Carlson, all in favor? Okay, so the application has been deferred.
Thank you kindly.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move forward with vetting the agenda. So there's 2 items on the agenda. Number 38A, 291 Craven Road. Do we have the agent or applicant here? For Craven Road? Yeah, is there an agent for the application? Okay, so we're just vetting the agenda. I just want to see if there's any parties contesting the application. Okay, so that item will be held. And let me see if item number 39, so right now we're still stepping the item down. 39, 8 Midburn Avenue. Do we have the agent or applicant? Yes. Okay, any interested parties for 8 Midburn? Yes. Okay, so that item will also be held down. So as I mentioned in my introductory speech, we strongly advise, yes, both agents will maybe give 5 to 10 minutes?
Maybe at least 10, because
So if you fill out the decision request card, if you can please hand it in to staff members. Okay, so we'll give 10 minutes to the agents and the parties interested in the applications to step outside and discuss
They are going to be having, or?
any outstanding issues or any concerns or lack of information.
we'll come back at 20 after, right?
Yeah, and then we'll come back at 4:20. If you come back and you're ready, we'll hear the application.
I think the agent's talking to them.
You represent one house. If we don't want it, we'll leave it.
So if you can just remind us which application.
Midburn, 8 Midburn.
Okay, so are the parties contesting the application, would they like to speak? Yeah, okay, so if you can be seated on my left-hand side. Before we proceed, I'll just mention what the committee has in front of us. We have the copy of draft plan of survey, we have a site plan, floor plans, elevations, we have email correspondence from right-of-way control management center, we have staff report from development engineering as well as urban forestry, we have correspondence and concerns / interest from 6 Midburn Avenue and number 1499 Gordonwood Park Court. And then we have correspondence and opposition from 11/99 Goodwood Park Court, and then 1099 Goodwood Park Court. Okay, if you can please introduce yourself and give us a short summary of your proposal.
Yes, Jonathan Minskowski. I'm the agent for the owner. So what you have before you is somewhat of a unique lot in itself, and it's not really noticeable from the street, because one thing we can perceive with lots is generally frontage. We don't generally perceive lot area from the street itself. So if you actually look at the variance that relate to the consent, there is no frontage variance, yet there is a lot area variance. Okay, and as I get into it in a little bit more detail, I'll kind of outline why I believe the lot area variance and this dwelling that's there actually fits in with the neighborhood and is considered minor and is desirable. So if you actually look, here we have Dawes Road over here. This structure of lots here is very unique, okay? As we go east, we lose that, where we actually don't have anything to the rear, okay? So these dwellings here, coming from Dawes to Midburn, are all extremely shallow lots. With actually number 4A now does actually have a dwelling on it. That was approved at the OMB. For severance, and then we have 2, 2B, and 2A. So the structure of this portion of Midburn is completely different than the other portions of Midburn itself. Now, if we look at the variances itself, there are a couple of odd kind of variances that in my opinion, actually do fit with the zoning bylaw as well as the intent. I think it's important to note that we don't have landscaping requests in front of you today. So in terms of an overbuild of shoehorning something into it, yes, we do have gross floor area, yes, we do have coverage, but that is mainly as a result of the uniqueness of this lot. So in terms of creating the streetscape that is contiguous, that deals with the front yard setback request, we are actually moving the house from the existing dwelling closer to the street itself. Okay, and I also think it's important to note that when we actually look at the survey itself, sorry, technology sometimes doesn't work as well. When we actually look at the site itself, we're essentially filling in the vacant portion of the dwelling. That side yard setback there is 6.29 meters from the existing dwelling, that is the open space, to the adjacent dwelling to the west. So we're essentially taking that empty lot and filling it in pretty much almost to the inch of what's there today. In terms of the setbacks to the rear, we are also increasing that setback to the rear, and that was as a result of we had some consultation with planning where they did express some concerns from the rear yard setback that we were proposing. So we did push that portion of the building forward. Now, you have some concerns from the neighbors back here that are in the Goodwood complex to the rear. That building is essentially on the property line of this dwelling. So when you're actually in the rear yard of 8, well, I guess we can look at it through here, but I do have some pictures that don't seem to want to load. If you actually look here, this is the rear yard situation of this dwelling. And they did speak of a drastic grade change. That is true. As you go down Dawes, as you travel north, it does slope severely. That's a natural feature. Again, before you today, there are no height variances. There are no building length or building depth variances. Okay? What I would say is they put a modestly sized home on a lot that does fit within the character of the neighborhood. Lastly, in terms of the character of the setbacks, as you can see here, that uniform setback the city desires through the averaging in the new 569/2013 zoning bylaw, it just doesn't exist. The houses are forward, some are right on the street. It is somewhat of a fractured portion of Midburn there, where it's kind of a mishmash of everything, as well as the lot types, the lot sizes, as well as the frontages itself. I think that's it.
Okay, so we're going to hold the questions until the adjacent neighbor had an opportunity to speak. Yeah, if you can please come up, introduce yourself and your address.
Yes, my name is Sharon Smith. I live at 3A Midburn Avenue, which is across the street and just west of the location we're talking about. So I am against both proposed dwellings. We've been through this before on the street. 4A, he had a map up for, they severed that property and built one, which is now directly across from me. So I have a problem with the side yard setback, which apparently isn't an issue. I'm not sure why. East or west. I have a problem with the lot coverage. I have a problem with the no green space, which I don't know, that's not an issue apparently either. This is a unique property, of course. They are all unique. The Masseys used to live on this street. It's a historic street. I'm not really taking that into consideration, but yes, they're all unique. There are some larger homes on the other side of the street. And I believe one is designated a historic home. I'm not 100% positive on that. But anyways, the street is unique, yes. But all the more reason not to sever the lot. It's a tiny lot with a tiny house. And that is unique to the street. And by putting two houses on that property, you're basically removing any and all green space that existed. And I didn't think that that was part of the city's plan. Really, and that's it. I mean, it's the same story. I mean, the people at the back, he's talked about the grading issue. It's quite the drop. There is a massive issue with that retaining wall in the back from the first 5 houses. If I'm not mistaken, 1 or 1A has had to do that retaining wall at least 3 times because it just doesn't hold. So, and they're putting this house back probably another 10 feet from where it is now. Essentially, it doesn't, I'm not getting technical, I'm just saying it's covering the entire lot, 2 houses. He doesn't have anything for me, we talked about it. I know there's other people that had an issue, I'm not sure if they emailed or not, but I don't have a problem with building, and I don't think any of the neighbors have a problem with building. Because it's going to happen. It's got to happen. It was a very old home. But the issue is the size and the space and the setbacks. So I think that those minor variances, there's a lot of them, turn into like a major variance, in my opinion. But
members, do you have any questions? I have a question in terms of integral garages. So from my observations, there was one that was part of a home and one was a side garage. Would you say that there's more garages on the street that are part of the build form?
So the house to the east has a built-in garage. And then I believe there is only one other. And that would be to the east of that house. The rest all have, there are some front parking, there are driveways. Also, there is no parking on our street at night. We have no permit parking whatsoever. So, you know, if you are going to build on our street, it does make sense to have that because there's nowhere to park. We're one of the only streets in the city that doesn't have permit parking overnight.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we'll have the agent please come up and respond to the raised concerns.
Now the pictures all came up. But just for one quick clarification, we're actually moving the dwelling from the rear closer to the front of the property line. So right now, the existing house setback is 3.69 meters. From the rear property line to the rear wall, we're increasing that to 4.2 meters. So there is a slight increase in that actual distance from that retaining wall. In addition, as you see, you did have some comments from engineering construction services. They didn't identify any issues with the retaining wall or any type of drainage or slope to the rear. In terms of the variances itself, you know, I look at coverage and gross floor area as products of multiple things. And by that I mean when we start to get over length and over depth and we really push our built form into neighboring properties, then I think we have to take a serious concern and say, hey, the GFA may be too much, the coverage may be too much. Again, we don't have a length, we don't have the depth, and we're not requesting a height variance either. We are within all of those. And in terms of the landscaping, again, we do adhere to all of the 569/2013, both for the front yard as well as the rear yard. And I just wanted to go show you one quick thing, kind of that character of the rear yards that dealt with those setbacks. And again, here we just have the house. This again is that filled-in portion. It isn't presently green right now. It actually is paved. So we're not actually removing that green space to put an additional dwelling. It is paved area right now. And then lastly, just to kind of show the character of that rear portion of Midburn. What I've done is I've just taken the City of Toronto mapping and I've scaled it to the depth of the lot right now. So here we have the 3.69, which is the existing. And here, if we take the 4.2 that we are proposing here, you can see we are basically in line. In addition to the dwellings to the west, they are all actually further encroaching into that required rear yard setback. So again, it is the uniqueness of these lots that has created many of the variances that are before you today.
I have a question in terms of the FSI. So can you show us any examples of houses in the neighborhood that have this FSI?
Well, again, I don't have specific examples because we didn't order any of the property data for this. And generally, you don't get concrete FSI data because they'll tell you what's above grade, but they won't really give you the second floor. In terms of what's on the street, the dwellings that are on these reduced lots that go to the west would have similar GFAs, again, just because of the limitations of the lot. If we have 30 more feet at the rear, we would have that additional area, which would bring that FSI in line with the dwellings that are adjacent to it. So in terms of the FSI, we don't really experience the FSI from the street because we don't know where the end of that lot is.
But the house would be larger than 200 square foot home, right?
Pardon?
The house would be larger than 200 square foot home?
It would be about yes, it would be about a 2,000 square foot home of livable area. A 4-bedroom dwelling.
Panel members, do you have any questions?
Just on the lot area, are there any other lots on that street or in the very close vicinity that are comparable to what you're asking for?
Again, the similar lots as you go west.
What about the ones across the street? I'm just looking at that map you had up. They look narrower.
Well, again, lot area would be tough for us to match anybody because of the reduced depth we have. In terms of over here, you can see right here, there is a built form that is similar to this in terms of the typology of the dwelling itself, but these would most likely be typical 100-foot, 110-foot deep lots. So as we go over here, you'll see that these lots would be more in line, but again, those lots are even pushed forward. They don't even have as much depth as the ones that are proposed before you today.
So how long is your lot again?
How deep is it?
Yeah, how deep is it?
24.42 meters. So 80 feet, essentially. And again, we're not requesting a length or depth variance from the zoning bylaw.
Okay. Panel members? there are no more questions, we'll be in committee discussion.
I think it's overbuilding on the lots. The lots are too small and the houses are too big and don't meet the character of the area. I appreciate that there is a variety of character of the area, but most of the lots are not built to the capacity that this would be with the houses as proposed. My thoughts.
I would agree. The lots are undersized. The houses have large coverage variances.
Yeah, I echo the same comments. I mean, 2,000 square foot home, it's quite large for bedrooms. I think for this size of a lot, especially if it's divided into two, something small would be more appropriate.
I would agree, although I recognize that there is no variance for the lot frontage. You know, we're talking a reduced lot area that's probably not comparable to another lot on the street, but then in addition to that, you've got the high lot coverage. So I think cumulatively, I would agree that it is somewhat of an overbuild. As well as the FSI, it's double.
Yeah. It's interesting that there's no soft landscaping variance. Okay, so I'll need a motion then.
Okay, through you, Madam Chair, move a motion to deny the consent and two variance applications, as I don't believe they meet the criteria under the Planning Act and are not within the character of the area.
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion to refuse the consent and variance application has been moved by Ms. Hayes, second Mr. Carlson. All in favor? So the applications have been refused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Please make sure to fill out the decision request cards if there are any appeals. That's the way you'll be informed of them. Okay, so we move forward. Item number 38. If we have the agent or the applicant, please come up, and any parties interested in this application who would like to speak, if they could be seated on my left-hand side. So if you can please come up to the horseshoe. Okay, so the committee has in front of us draft plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a staff report from Development Engineering, as well as Transportation Services and Urban Forestry. We have correspondence and support from 217 Craven Road and 267 Craven Road. And then we have correspondence in opposition from 427, 263, 285, and 307 Craven Road.
And 247.
Okay, so we don't have that on file, but, okay, so 247 Craven. Okay, so before we proceed, how many of you are planning to speak? Just all of you? Okay, so please make sure not to cover the same concerns, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak, up to 5 minutes. Okay, so if we can have the agent give us introduce themselves first, and then give us a very brief presentation of the proposal.
Good afternoon, member of the committee. My name is Tom Van Lee, and I'm the architect for the project. The project proposed to sever the lot into 3. And in doing that, we are also seeking the minor variant on 6 items. The item number 1 actually also entail to number 2 as well, is the minimum lot requirement. It should be 180 square meter, and we propose 113 square meter. And the frontage should be 6 meter, and we got 5 meter. The floor index is supposed to be 0.6 times and we propose 1.71. In addition to that is the parking requirement is 1 parking, and we propose 0 parking on the lot. There are another 2 technical items which entail with the roof slope and the E projection. And I think if anyone would like to go to that 2 issue, I would address after this presentation. But my presentation would like to focus on 2 issues, is the lot and the parking, which is the major concern in this development. So this is a typical urban context, which is cover, I would say, 80% of the development on that street. The lot we suggest is 16 feet and 8 inch wide frontage. It's not much different with the current majority of the lot in the neighborhood. And we put the streetscape together. This is sorry, but the sketches may not reflect but the scale is the same scale that we try to portray here. So with that, I don't think we push the issue in terms of urban planning and the lot sizes. That for the frontage and the lot area. Dealing with the parking, we did a survey and we talked to the neighbor. Majority, if I'm not wrong, is street parking in this neighborhood. We have about a dozen or half dozen homes do have a garage, but it's not parking, right? So in wrap up this presentation, I think the proposed without the garage, it emphasizes the urban context of the neighborhood. The lot sizes, although we divide in 3, and the desire is simplicity and it's very traditional brick, so it could emphasize and increase the streetscape of the neighborhood. I would like to stop my presentation here and open for the question and comment.
Okay, so we'll have you step down. We'll have the contesting parties come up, raise their concerns, and then you'll have an opportunity to rebut.
Thank you.
What they mentioned. Okay, so just to highlight, you have maximum of 5 minutes, and please make sure to stick to the planning concerns or the application.
Absolutely. Thank you, committee. My name is Harold Markovici. I am the neighbor that is going to be the backyard neighbor to these properties.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what's the address?
198 Rhodes Avenue.
Okay.
So first of all, I'd like to kind of set the facts a little bit cleaner than what was said before me. The pictures that were shown of the houses on that street are, I think the picture that was picked was the newest house on the street. The street is actually very, very quaint, very, very interesting to walk. I think it has articles in the Toronto Star about it. So that picture is definitely not representative of what's going on that street. With respect to this complex that is proposed to be built here, this is a 50-foot lot. There is a reason why the square footage ratio is astronomically more than what the bylaws say it should be, why the variance is so large. because the proposal here is to build 3 decent-sized houses in place of one house that existed there. Right now, the lot has a house and a garage, right? That we'll get to the parking in a second. So instead of one house and a garage, they're building 3 big houses with no green space, nothing pleasant to look at. And on top of that, given the lack of any sort of drainage capacity of these houses, and the neighboring houses being pretty quaint, I think there will be some potential water drainage issue. There will be nowhere for the water to drain except for potentially the neighbors' basements. From my personal perspective, as the backyard neighbor, right now the garage is built literally right on the property line, and it serves as a fence, and there's a retaining wall there. So, having a garage on my property line, I don't really see it as a big nuisance. But if they made a house on my property line, well, there goes my backyard enjoyment. I don't want to be looking at my backyard and then all of a sudden see my new neighbor in their kitchen or in their bedroom doing God knows what. So I think that the house does need to be scaled back and not interfere with the neighbors' enjoyment of their properties. With respect to the garages, as I said, right now the property has a double garage with a double driveway. I'm not quite sure if the garage is being used. I've seen cars parked in that driveway. So going from that, which technically gives you 6 parking spots, to 0 parking spots, while at the same time tripling the number of houses on the property, seems pretty aggressive. Lastly, I would say that tree in the picture there is actually in my backyard, and it's extremely close to the property line. So the moment that garage goes and they want to dig, I'm not a zoologist or a botanist or anything, but if there are roots down there, they're going to have to chop and harm that tree. And a year or 2 from now, that tree dies. That's a pretty significant expense and potential risk to both my property and my neighbors and my family. Of that tree, falling or having to be removed. We're talking about a very, very large tree. With that, I'll end my remarks. Thank you for your time.
Much. Panel members, do you have any questions? No questions? Thank you. Okay, so we'll have the next neighbor come up and introduce themselves and the address.
My name is Anna Alexander, and I'm at 303 Craven Road. It's right next door to 291. The numbers on the street jump because there used to be little houses. I've lived there for 24 years, and I was hoping to live there for many more. But I would like to just mention that the new owner that purchased this property has made it an unsafe and abandoned property filled with feral animals and suspicious people in the backyard. He does just no work at all, ever, and it's caused a lot of my time. And it is very discerning to me how in Toronto, on a little street filled with families, that this new owner can take no responsibility and ignore this. We have elderly and children on the street, and the owner shows 0 maintenance, and the list is long. To receive this notice of 3 detached houses, I'm not certain if I can live next door to that either. The proposed variances will personally affect me and the enjoyment of my property. The only hobby I have is gardening, and these houses will cause great loss of sun to my gardens. All the sunlight from the side of my side windows will be lost, and I'll be looking at a stark wall. A very great concern is that the proposed excavation will have detrimental effects on my home. My home is very small. There's no basement. The soil underneath my home is what gives it stability. 3 detached houses, if 3 detached houses are allowed, that would mean digging very deep, literally inches from my house. I'm not sure if I understood. He said 16.3. I don't know if that's per house. But if every house is going to be 16 feet 3 inches, that's 48.9. The lot is 50 feet. How close can they possibly dig next to my house? The foundation right now, where my neighbor's house is, it adds ladder support to the soil next to me, preventing movement. Once that is removed, there is just such a chance that the soil will move and the support underneath my home and footing. There's a lot of things I can say, but I just don't understand also how this owner has never approached me. It's been a few years, and if it wasn't for the Committee of Adjustment sending me this notice, I would have no idea. This neighborhood is, it's the fence there, I think, has been there for 100 years. And yes, it is all over the internet about these quaint little tiny homes. I'm happy in my home. I know it's small, but I just feel everything is going to change, especially my backyard. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? No. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll have the next neighbor speak.
Might as well be me.
Okay.
Sorry for clapping. I'm not supposed to speak until I'm there.
Yeah, so if you can come to the podium and then
Sorry,
introduce yourself and your address.
Get on the street here and get along the road. And I'll do this properly. Obviously, it's my first time. Clock starts now. Hi, my name's Jonathan St. Rose. I live at 247 Craven Road, 15 years as of Halloween Day. Mortgage paid for, 15 months? Something like that. I'm a bike courier. I go everywhere in the city. I see everything. Our street is like my street that I grew up on, Bob Marr Road and Highland Creek. Right? That's what I'm saying. And now this is like overkill. Okay, I wish that the committee would look at the bylaws. I've got lawyer and architect friends that are pointing out, because they do computer stuff, and they're going, oh, this bylaw, this technicality, this bylaw, this technicality, this bylaw, this technicality are being breached and broken. All right, so maybe it might be a good idea before they get their permit that the committee just go, okay, hold on a second, let's look at their plans again. That's what I'm saying. Besides that, the reason I was clapping, 100 years, the fence, go on Google and see, it's all over the net or whatever. 100 years as of 2016. The Craven Road fence is known as a feature. The Craven Road is known as a, and the city goes like, yeah, we love having this street as a feature, just like Parkdale or High Park. And it's like, okay, yeah, we'll destroy that and we'll turn it into I don't know, foolishness. What? Three houses, rooming houses, essentially, on Cottage Lounge. I dare you guys, he did a video. You punch up, I'm serious, punch up Vimeo, Vimeo, Craven Road, and see what I have to say about that, because I'm right on there. They did it. It's a feature. Craven Road is special. I don't know. What are you going to do? When it starts from there, where does it go from there? Why don't we just, I don't know. Excuse my language. I'm not used to public speaking. I'm a bike courier for like 20 years. Well, actually, 28 years, but that's another story. But no, it's just foolishness. That's why we love Craven Road. That's why we're Cravenites. That's why when I wake up in the morning and have my coffee in the morning, that there's like, 15 people, commuters, and when I come home and have my beer at the end of the day sitting on my steps, another 15, like it's a neighborhood. This is going to compact, and, we get people walking by, literally, going, wow, man, we love this street. It's so cool. Yeah, okay, well, this goes down, and then, boom, you open the door, and we have people who are talking about, like, they're going, okay, this goes down, or the houses go up, so to speak. I'm going to live in Milton because I don't want to live on this kind of street. I might as well, go live like, in a condo on the Queensway. I have spoken.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions? No? Okay, we'll have the next neighbor please come up and introduce themselves. No, yeah. So.
Thank you, Johnny. My name is Dean. I live at 285 Craven Road, which is the house right beside 291. I don't know if a lot of you have known what Craven Road is. It's been featured on like CBC docs. They do historical walks on Craven Road. Jane's Walk, does a tour on Craven Road every so often. It's a road that I've lived there for about 8 years now. I knew nothing about, but living there, it's one of those neighborhoods that, as Johnny was saying, you know everybody. It's really tight knit. It's really unique. The houses on Craven Road are really diverse. You start seeing new builds. You start seeing the houses that have been there for 100 years now. It's what makes Craven really historical, and it has a really strong character to the street. And what I'm here to say is that I'm not opposed to change. I understand change is going to happen. It's inevitable. What I am opposed to is, having the developers or the owners that are going to implement this change onto Craven Road is to take into fact, the community that they're building in, the character of the street, and to build with the community in mind. And I don't think that's happening with, given the amount of requested variances that are being proposed by 291 Craven. You could just look at the current state of the 291 now, and like what Anna was saying, it's a mess. I don't think the owner has shown any respect toward the community. He has done nothing in terms of gaining the confidence of the people on the street. I personally had to go into the property myself and talk to people who are on the property doing, God knows what. And I've even called the police on people. I've asked people to leave myself. There's a rodent problem. There's dumping on there. It's a mess. So I don't know how you could, put so much trust into what's going to happen going forward with what's going to be building on 291. Okay, so the previous speakers have gone through a lot of the points that I wanted to go through. So I'll just go through a couple of the major ones. I do see a problem with the density that's going to happen on the street. I mean, the floor space is going to go up to, I believe it's 1.7 times the max allowable amount. So you're going to have these 3 huge units on a small space. And if you actually look at the floor plans of the units, and I don't know if the developer or the owner was thinking about this, but you have the potential to have basement apartments with these units. So you could go and given, you know, the influx of Airbnb on the street and basement rentals, you have the potential to be going from 3 apartments to possibly 3 apartments, or sorry, 3 units plus 3 basement apartments, which could vastly increase the amount of, one, density on the street and parking as well, right? I've thought about that. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's something I think we should consider, given the space that's going to be used for each dwelling. I see an issue with flooding, potentially. I believe they're building 2 levels below the water table. If you ever walk down Craven Road right now during one of the winter months, you will see a small ice rink in front of a couple of the houses due to the water coming out of the sump pumps. With these 3 new dwellings, there's a potential that you'll have like a small ice rink in front of not only these houses, but flowing down to like houses, neighboring houses. And with the flooding, being a direct neighbor, I'm concerned about my house as well. Given that my house is one of the more newer ones, given the proximity of how close these dwellings are going to be to my house, even I have that concern. Okay, and I guess I have one more time for one more, is that right now there's a single-story house on there, and you're going to build 3 units that are multi-story. It's going to have a direct impact on people's backyards, their quality of life, the sunlight that's going into not only my own house, but neighbors around there. And it's going to change the landscape of Craven Road, not only the street in general, but on people's direct lives. Like Anna was saying, she's really into her garden, and that's what she's into, and that's what's going to change now, whether we like it or not, when these houses come in.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question. So your house is 3 stories as well? Is that
Correct, yes.
And do you know your lot size, like in terms of?
I don't know it off the top of my head. I didn't build the house. I moved in there, unfortunately. I think it's 25 or 26 by I can give you that number. I'm at 285, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, I am. Yeah. I'm Dean. Christine's my sister. She's on the correspondence. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll have the agent please come up and respond to the raised concerns.
Good afternoon again. There are many issues that raised by the neighbor, which I cannot possibly address them all. But the technical issue, let's say about drainage, like water drainage, excavation that too close to the existing, the abandoned, the property have been abandoned, those I cannot address. I'm here just to like to address the minor variant issue. Those will be addressed at the building permit. Before the building permit stage, the city will impose, or if you're concerned, you can put that as a condition of approval. So to address your water drainage, your abandoned property, once you get approval, that will be disappear for sure. And then the excavation for the damage of the house. So those are the technical, or have a shoring design before they issue permit, like the staff would issue permit. I would like to touch base with Anna here. I know this is a very proud neighborhood. I have no doubt about that. It's a very character. It have a tradition, and people love it. People know each other. We're here not to go in and develop and for any profit and then go. So the product we put in is affordable for a family who has like 2 kids. It's less than 2,000 square feet home. It's compatible with the neighborhood. And in all, if we put a large home in here, it will be out of the neighborhood urban context because it's not compatible. We put in the brick, we put in a quality product so for the neighborhood. The one thing about the concern about the shadow and all that, I just like to so the south end is on the top of the paper, so the sun would travel, and certainly we have a shadow, but also that shadow will be no more than what the tree currently in the backyard of what you already have. I think the height of the house is a lot less than the height of the tree. So I don't think will affect too much of the gardening work, but if you would like to see the shadow study, we will be pleased to provide that. And you can put that in the condition of approval, and I think my client would honor that. The next issue is the concern of the drainage. We had to certify the engineering department staff, city staff, before we can even pull the permit. There are many solutions to that these days, like the harvest tank or the dry well, which almost like impose, even we don't have a high density issue, because the city storm water management will make us to be self-contained or put it minimum effect into the storm system. The other issue that neighbor concern is the basement apartment. I don't know if you have seen the design. In order to qualify a basement apartment here, we had to have 1 hour fire rated and 1 hour fire separation. In the design, you will see that impossible to do that. And not only that, we had to have 2 means of egress, and we cannot possibly. Should I show the design of the basement, or are you okay with?
Sorry?
The
I think we have the plans, so we've seen them. We're okay with that. Yeah.
I address most of the item. I don't know whether it's certified. One more thing is the tree in the back of it's the Harrow house. Again, before issue the permit, we will have to certify the foreign urban forestry and have a forest report. And if you like to put that in as a condition of approval, please, we will agree to.
Panel members, do you have any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
So could you indicate to me whether or not what you are proposing, in your opinion, does it mirror the existing lot pattern on the street? And also, do you have any examples of the FSI that you're requesting that exists in any other properties in the neighborhood?
Yeah, before I answer, can I just give a little bit background? My background is I was a control architect for all this development, like private control architect for all the development in GTA for 10 years. So we do concern about the design context and the micro urban design, which is the streetscape. So before we do the work, we did do the survey, and through the, so your question is if I had considered the design context?
I'd like you to indicate, do you feel that what you are requesting in terms of the creation of the 3 lots, would those 3 lots mirror the current lot patterns existing on the street?
Yes, I believe that's the best development, because if we do larger house, it's out of the design context, and it's not compatible with the characteristics of the neighborhood.
Do you have a lot study that you've conducted?
Yes, there is a lot in the roof area.
Do you have a lot study? Lot size on the street?
No, I don't have that, but the city staff must have. We did the survey. I think the house next to us is 16 feet and 8 inch, and we.
Sorry, are you talking about the frontage now?
285. I think it is. The lot is a little bit larger based on drawings you submitted.
The one that 285 is a little bit larger than us, but you go down to, let me pull out this zoning map, and so that is the true or relatively true of the lot. And if you want to have an analysis, we can see majority of that stretch, the house is very dense and very small.
You know if those houses are 3 stories though? Or the more narrow lot sizes, are those 3 stories houses, or?
No, some is bungalow even. I can put up. So that is the new brick house, which have a garage, and it's very similar with what we propose.
Do you know what the FSI is for that house? Do you know what the floor space index is for that house?
Sorry, I don't.
Do you have any examples of any other homes in the area that have a floor space index that you're requesting? Because you're requesting almost triple the permitted floor space index.
Right now, no, I don't have that information, but I could provide.
It would have had to have been today, because we're making a decision today.
Okay. Any other questions, panel members? Okay, if not, we're in committee, so discussion. Sorry, the procedure is that now we're in committee, so there's no one.
Through you, Madam Chair, I've heard both sides presenting their arguments, and this street is indeed eclectic, and there are lots varying in size. We haven't really been given any examples of the floor space index that's being asked for. And as the opposition acknowledged, I mean, things are changing in the city. However, I'm of the opinion that 3 times the FSI is absolute overbuilt in terms of the severed lots. And I would also suggest that the lot area is also overbuilt. It, in my opinion, would be more palatable to go with 2 lots because you would be fairly close to the area. Like you'd be, I did a quick mathematical calculation and I came up with 170 square meters roughly. So which would be a lot more in keeping with the bylaw and I think would make more sense. I believe this is an absolute overbuild of the site. And those are, that is my opinion.
I would reiterate that and emphasize in the design of the individual houses, how often do we see a sub-basement being needed to fit a desired structure? We've got 2 basement levels in all 3 of these. I would say every indication of this is that it is too much for the site. I mean, I think it's clear there's room for a severance here, but 3 is too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think T2 would make, again.
When you go and visit this site, certainly it is eclectic and there are certainly different lot sizes and different home styles, but what's being proposed here, in my opinion, is overdevelopment on the site, and I wouldn't be able to support it.
Okay.
Before you make a decision, can I?
Sorry, no, so this is, we're in committee, so we're just, it's based on the panel members' feedback. I just echo everyone else's comments, I agree.
If those are all the comments, I would be prepared to move a motion. Through you, Madam Chair, again, having heard the arguments on both sides, but based on what's before us, I think this is an overbuild of the site. I don't believe that it meets our criteria. Therefore, I would move refusal of the application.
Okay, so a motion to refuse has been moved by Ms. Oman. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, second Ms. Hayes. All in favor? So the application has been refused. Okay, thank you very much. So please make sure to fill out decision request cards just in case there are appeals proceedings.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Justice has been done.
Okay, so if we can have silence in the room, that would be much appreciated. And so the meeting has been adjourned at 5, or the hearing has been adjourned at 5:17.
May the Lord bless us all. I will speak off camera. Number 1, I think you're right. Number
Sorry,
2,
you're going to
I
have to
think you're
speak to
right.
staff members.
I am just going to say this. We are, I know there's going to be